Mobile One and champion spark plugs.
Ayrton Senna assumes a commanding lead in the World Drivers' Championship after winning for the 5th time at the Belgian Grand Prix. Williams, meanwhile, have a weekend they'd rather forget. Jordan go through the upheaval of losing one driver, only to introduce an immense new talent who makes immediate impact on his Grand Prix debut. All those stories, plus a look at the career of Belgium's top driver, Thierry Boutsen, and Honda's new entry in the Power Stakes game. All coming up on the official story of the FIA Formula One World Championship, Inside Track. This is Brussels, capital of Belgium and the headquarters of the European community. The Belgians, of course, noted in the world of diplomacy and for their savoir-faire, playing host to the world. The nation's capital is one of the many areas where, with careful ease, the Belgians entertain not only themselves, but also the world community. Belgium's a country with great sporting traditions, particularly in football and in cycling. But the annual event which attracts the greatest attention of all is the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit 90 minutes drive from Brussels, set in the heart of the Ardennes forest. It's one of the classic all-time circuits, a favourite of the top drivers.
Oh, I like the circuit. I like to drive around here. I enjoy very much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's one of the great circuits of the world because it's a driver's circuit.
But on the other hand, I think, despite that, you need a good car equipment to do well. Otherwise, you can't do it.
It's got some fantastic challenging corners. You've got to be a little bit brave and very, very precise. It's very high speed.
And also, you have to consider that this is a critical time of the championship. Is where you really just make it or you don't.
The defending world champion Ayrton Senna's record at Spa, 4 wins in the last 6 years. Nigel Mansell knew he had to end that streak if he was to keep within striking distance of the World Drivers' Championship. The standings. Heading into this race, Senna with a 12-point lead over Mansell. Certainly not an insurmountable margin, but with just 6 races in the Formula One calendar left, every point would be crucial. Power, reliability, tyre selection, all important factors at Spa, one of the most demanding circuits in Formula One. Sean Alesi takes us through a lap of the track in his Ferrari.
So the chicane is just the part before the pit lane. It's one of the easier part of the circuit. For the hairpin in the second gear, it's very, very slow to take this part. After, it's very difficult because you have to go to the 6th gear at the corner called L'Eau Rouge. It's very, very difficult because quick and it's downhill and uphill. And just after this part, you go to 7th gear. The speed is very high, 320 kilometers. For the very late braking zone for corner in 4th gear. This part is very technical. You go all in 4th and after 5th, and you go for the corner right in 3rd gear. Very long. You have to wait a little bit to use the power. 4th for this left corner. Now it's downhill, 5th, 6th. Very quick corner and very, very long. one of the longest of all the circuit. You stay in 6th, again 4th, for another technical part. You go to 3rd, 4th, 5th, and you come back to the box 6th, 7th. This part is very difficult because it's a little bit bumpy, and you never you have to touch the curve, otherwise you lose a lot of time. Go through the chicane, 3, 4th, and 5th. The finish line here.
Initially, the focus of the Grand Prix weekend was on the Jordan team, following the unfortunate news that Bertrand Gachot's career as a Formula One driver was now in serious doubt. He'd been jailed for 18 months for assaulting a London taxi driver with tear gas.
I suppose in one way we were incredibly disappointed, but you know, the severity of the sentence seems to be very harsh too, but I'm not a lawyer, so it's very difficult for me to say. But the team, and still are, devastated. We are very upset, particularly Bertram, his home race here at Spa, and the fact that he's not here, because he was, if you like, one of the founder members of the project. He came and decided to commit himself to the team when the idea of the Jordan Grand Prix car was really a dream at the time.
Gachot's replacement was named as Michael Schumacher, a 22-year-old German who arrived at Jordan from the Mercedes team in the World Sports Car Championship.
After the news of Bertram not being released, we gave him a run at Silverstone last week, 30 laps, and during that occasion he did a really good job.
A big risk for Jordan to take. Schumacher had never driven at Spa before, a Formula One debut in trying circumstances. Nevertheless, Schumacher felt that his experience in sports cars with Mercedes had groomed him perfectly for the task in hand.
I think it was quite important for me because I get so many chances to do so many kilometers, so many testing, and I work with a quite big team together. And I think that's really well for me. You know, I get many experience there, and that's one of the points why I could be so much in the front now.
Gachot's sentence caused a furore in Belgium, the 18-month jail term being generally regarded as too severe. It wasn't long before signs of protest started to show. Gachot's friend, sports car driver Harold Heisman, explains.
It was a spontaneous demonstration, just close friends of Bertrand. They had a demonstration last week in Brussels in front of the English embassy, and they're planning a big demonstration. Appears that they're planning a big demonstration for the 10th of September in front of the EEC, and they expect several thousand of people. Just people have gone mad here in Belgium about all this thing, and they think it's very unfair, and loads of people want to show their support to Bertrand. So it's good for Bertrand.
While Jordan sorted out driver problems, McLaren Honda were busy trying to perfect a new system which would give them a decided advantage in the power stakes. Variable trumpets on the inlets of the engine. The engine management computer measures the air intake into the engine, and depending on the car's location on the circuit, the trumpets either go up or down, maximizing the torque curve. Whether coming out of a corner, in the middle of a straight, or at the end of a straight. It's a development that certainly caught the eye of everyone at Williams.
Now, we have obviously got fixed trumpets. We don't know whether it's the right or wrong way to go, but what I'm saying is that they have moved the stakes a lot higher, and it's going to be tough for us this weekend too.
And still to come on Inside Track, a review of the last decade of Grand Prix in Belgium. We'll talk to Thierry Boutsen about his Formula One career and show you the highlights of Friday and Saturday qualifying as we follow the battle for pole position. It's all coming up here on Screen Sport. Part of the present Spa-Francorchamps circuit is public road, a reminder of the origins of this race when the track stretched for miles and the lack of safety features made it especially treacherous. All the great names of the past appeared here: Brabham, Hill, Fittipaldi and Stewart, to name just a few. Interestingly, the sons of those drivers continue to uphold the family name in motor racing in the Formula 3000 support race to be held here at Spa. Wilson Fittipaldi and Jackie Stewart have helped guide the careers of sons Christian and Paul. David Brabham and Damon Hill also have impeccable pedigrees. But Jackie Stewart, seeing his son race at Spa for the first time, was to evoke memories of his early days on the old circuit.
Well, if there are circuits that are going to be called the circuit of men, then Spa-Francorchamps would be one of those, because in the old days, when it was a much longer circuit, 8 miles long, it really had a remarkable ability to catch people out in the most dangerous fashion. There was little or no safety precautions at all. There were no barriers, there were trees, there were barbed wire fences to keep the cows in the field, there were unprotected farmhouses, telegraph poles. It really was a treacherous track. Of course, it was a challenge, and to do well in Spa and to be in pole position or the front row of the grid, really you felt you had achieved something and you felt that you had arrived in Formula One.
The Belgian Grand Prix has always been a significant stop on the Grand Prix calendar. In 1981, it was held at Zolder. Carlos Reutemann was on pole in the Williams, but Riccardo Patrese in the Arrows stalled on the grid. Mechanic Dave Luckett bravely went out onto the track to start the car. Behind him, the unsighted Siegfried Storr in the other Arrows hit Luckett. Earlier that weekend, another mechanic had been killed in the pit lane, but as horrific as this incident appeared, Luckett survived with multiple fractures of his legs. 10 years later, he's still in motor racing as chief mechanic with Leighton House. The race was restarted, minus the 2 Arrows of Patrese and Storr. The new start would be for the original distance of 70 laps. Nelson Piquet, Alan Jones and Carlos Reutemann would stage a season-long battle for the Drivers' Championship that year, but on this day, Piquet went off. As did Alan Jones, the Australian setting quickest lap before losing control and going into the Armco. Carlos Reutemann went on to win, with Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier second and Nigel Mansell in the Lotus third, the very first podium finish of his career. In 1982, again at Zolder, a dark cloud of gloom hung over the starting grid, 2 missing Ferraris signifying the loss of one of motor racing's legends. In Friday practice, Gilles Villeneuve had clipped the back of Jochen Mass's March. Villeneuve's Ferrari went airborne and he was thrown from the car into the catch fencing. He died later that night. Ferrari pulled their other car out of the race as a mark of respect for Villeneuve. In the race, John Watson was chasing Keke Rosberg on the last lap when the Finn lost it, allowing Watson through to pass him into first place. Watson was the winner, Rosberg second and Niki Lauda third. But Lauda would be disqualified for having raced in an underweight car. That meant Eddie Cheever in the Ligier was awarded third place. In 1983, the venue was switched to Spa-Francorchamps for the first time in 13 years. On pole position, Alain Prost in the Renault. But it was Andrea de Cesaris who had an absolutely brilliant start, weaving through Patrick Tambay and Prost to take the initial lead. However, de Cesaris would later succumb to mechanical problems, and Alain Prost would take his 7th career win. Tambay was second, Eddie Cheever in the other Renault third. Unfortunately for Prost, though, he would miss out on the World Championship that year by only 2 points to Nelson Piquet. In 1984, it was back to Zolder, and the 2 Ferraris of Alboreto and Arnoux were on the front row. Keke Rosberg in the Williams faltered and barely got away. The former 1982 world champion had to work his way from the back of the grid, and he did, a magnificent drive, which eventually earned him a 4th place finish. Michele Alboreto was holding a comfortable lead until he went off the track here. His car undamaged and he carried on without losing his lead, and the Ferrari driver went on to win. Derek Warwick in the Renault finished second, with Alboretto's teammate René Arnoux third. The Belgian Grand Prix was moved back to Spa for 1985, where a new and more durable surface had been laid down. Ayrton Senna was just behind Alain Prost on the front row, but had a superb start to jump into the lead. Nelson Piquet got into second place, but then spun, holding up the rest of the field and allowing Senna to build on his lead. Unlike the previous year, 1985 wasn't exactly a vintage Belgian Grand Prix for Ferrari, as we see in this pit stop of Stefan Johansson. The slippery surface made it difficult as the cars went from rain tyres to slicks when the track began to dry. But Senna managed to hold on to win, and needless to say, the entire Lotus team were quite pleased by the result. Nigel Mansell finished second that year, with Alain Prost third. In 1986, the list of starters in Belgium would be minus one name, Elio De Angelis. He had been killed in testing at the Paul Ricard circuit in France just 1 week earlier, so there would be just 25 cars on the grid. Nelson Piquet was on pole position, Gerhard Berger in the Benetton was beside him, and going into the first corner, Prost decided to take the inside, Senna the outside. Berger squeezed Prost, causing a chain reaction at the La Source hairpin. Piquet and Senna got away cleanly, with Nigel Mansell in third place. But unfortunately for Piquet, he would later retire with mechanical problems, leaving his teammate Mansell to battle it out with Senna for the lead. In the end, Mansell overtook Senna to score his first win of 1986, a win he dedicated to the memory of his former teammate, Elio De Angelis. In 1987, Mansell was on pole position and Ayrton Senna followed him through to take Nelson Piquet for second place. But the race would have to be restarted following a serious accident on the first lap. The two Tyrrells of Philippe Streff and Jonathan Palmer had collided, sending debris all over the track, which then had to be cleared up. On the restart, Ayrton Senna weaved his way around Mansell to go into first place. At a controversial moment later in the race, Mansell pulls alongside Senna, the two of them go into the corner side by side, they touch and both cars slide off the track and out of the race. Alain Prost would go on to win, with his McLaren teammate Stefan Johansson finishing second. For Prost, the win marked his 27th career victory, tying him at that stage with Jackie Stewart for the most career victories. Andrea De Cesaris's Brabham ran out of fuel on the last lap, and the Italian pushed his car to a third-place finish. In 1988, Alain Prost had a superb start to take the lead from teammate Ayrton Senna. But on the same lap, Senna retook the lead heading into Les Combes. Ivan Capelli in the March and Riccardo Patrese in the Williams staged a tremendous battle, won eventually by Capelli in a thrilling overtaking manoeuvre. Senna eventually won the race, with Prost second and Thierry Boutsen third. However, Boutsen and his teammate Alessandro Nannini were disqualified for using an irregular fuel, so third place was given to a very deserving Ivan Capelli, moving up from fourth place. The following year, low cloud and a strong sweeping rain caused the start of the race to be delayed by 90 minutes. The rain created rivers carrying mud across the track, and marshals were kept busy trying to clean the surface. Ayrton Senna ran a superb race in keeping just ahead of Alain Prost and Nigel Mansell, as both were just behind the leader right until the checkered flag. Last year was a story of starts, 3 to be exact. The original start would see Nigel Mansell's Ferrari pushed into the barrier heading into La Source, and then Martin Donnelly running into the back of teammate Derek Warwick. Mansell's car couldn't be moved, so the race had to be restarted. The cars got off smoothly for the second start, even though it's extremely tight, as we see from the onboard camera of Alessandro Nannini's Benetton. However, Paolo Barilla had a major accident in his Minardi, scattering wreckage across the track and causing the race to be stopped for a second time. The race got underway for good on the third try, with Senna leading from Berger and Prost. But Prost then took Berger for second place, as we saw from the camera on Thierry Boutsen's Williams. Ayrton Senna would go on to win his 4th Belgian Grand Prix, for the Brazilian, Spa always a favourite.
Looking back, 88, 89 and 90, exactly this time I was able to just find that little extra which gave us the edge over everybody else on the following races in the championship. And I hope we can repeat the same dose this year.
Certainly Senna, along with Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese, was heavily backed to win here in 1991. But the sentimental choice, among the locals at least, was Thierry Boutsen. He showed great potential early in his career in Formula 3 and Formula 2, then secured enough financial backing to land a seat with the Arrows Formula 1 team in 1983. Appropriately, his first Grand Prix was at Spa in his native Belgium that same year. Although Boutsen failed to score a point in his debut season, the Arrows team principal Jackie Oliver liked what he'd seen.
Within the first practice session, we saw that we had a future great driver on our hands, not just for the speed, but the way in which he related information about the car. I remember one thing, how then at that time we had 3 or 4 different types of tyre, and he would be able to judge the merits of each tyre. So not only was he new to the car and the team, he was able to judge what was the best tyre to use. I remember being quite impressed by that.
Arrows retained Boutsen's services for 1984 and at the Belgian Grand Prix introduced their BMW turbo engine. He scored the first points of his career that year, 6th in Brazil, then 5th at San Marino. A total of only 5 points scored, but Boutsen was exhibiting the polished professionalism that would earn him so much respect in the Formula 1 world. After 4 seasons with Arrows, Boutsen joined the Benetton Ford team for 1987. He'd already proved to be a steady, reliable performer with Arrows. Now he took his chance to prove that he was quick as well. He claimed 6 third-place finishes, was 4th in the Drivers' Championship by the end of 1988, and had come into his own in Grand Prix racing. Then in 1989, Boutsen was employed by Williams as their #1 driver, and the amiable Belgian grabbed the chance to secure his first victory of his career. It came in the Canadian Grand Prix 1989 in pouring rain despite having this spin. He was able to hold off all the challengers and take the checkered flag. That same year, at the last race of the season in Australia, it threw it down again, making it tough going even for the world champion. But through it all came Boutsen, overcoming the adverse conditions to win his 2nd race of the season and finish 5th in the Drivers' Championship with 37 points. Last season, 1990, disappointing for Boutsen. He won only 1 race, the Hungarian Grand Prix in August, and with Frank Williams opting to re-sign Nigel Mansell for the 1991 season, Boutsen was out in the cold.
Well, the personal relationship was something that was missing a lot at Williams. I mean, that was affecting me more than anything else. I mean, if you want to do a job, you do it 100% more than that. I mean, you think about it and you work all the time, but your car, and if the people are not respecting you in the team, I mean, there's no point in continuing like that. So I thought that I wanted to change air, especially after Hungary. When I finished the race, I won the race, went to the rostrum, did all the press interviews and all that, came back to the motorhome and everybody had left, so I couldn't even drink a glass of champagne with anybody or anything like that. I mean, it was very, very disappointing. And that's when I decided I didn't want to live that kind of experience anymore. It was not nice at all.
So Boutsen left Williams and, along with designer Frank Durney, helped put the pieces together for Guy Ligier's team that's been starved of success for so long. It hasn't been a vintage year, but the arrival of technical director Gérard Ducarouge and the clinching of the deal for Renault engines in 1992 means that at last there's real optimism in the team.
And if we can get everything well organized for next year, for sure we'll have a good car. We'll have one of the best engines available. I think we'll be in good shape.
Eight drivers looking for a lift from pre-qualifying into official practice, but only 4 will get through. And the fastest of them is Martin Brundle in the ever-improving Brabham Yamaha V12, head and shoulders above the rest. Teammate Mark Blundell took 2nd fastest time despite this spin to further reinforce the Brabham Yamaha's improved progress. Frenchman Olivier Gouillard, by comparison, lacked horsepower in the V8 Ford engine fond metal, but still took third in pre-qualifying. Alex Caffey in the footwork took the final pre-qualifying place, but sadly, Alboretto's hopes were deflated as team boss Jackie Oliver cringed.
Well, it's purgatory for us at the moment. To change engines mid-season with a car that's not designed for it and all the difficulties we have, I mean, it's pathetic would probably be a good word.
A trying time for footwork, but an even bigger test for the AGS Ford of Gabriele Tarquini as he fought for grip and a way through to official practice on the spectacularly fast Blanchimont, crashing the low-budget team's car badly, fortunately with no broken bones.
But I don't have the fracture. I don't have. It's okay. All it's okay. Now I have all the confusion in the head, but it's normal for me.
In official qualifying, Belgian Eric van der Poel crashed heavily at the same daunting bend, and practice had to be stopped while the wrecked Lamborghini was removed. The stunned Belgian ended up in hospital for a precautionary brain scan, but fortunately he was fine. When practice restarted, most drivers were anxious to rejoin the track, but unfortunately for Alain Prost, they all seemed to want to be out there at the same time. They could still get in the way, and they kept Alain Prost, the #1 Ferrari driver, down in 4th place. Nigel Mansell was 3rd, saying that McLaren had raised the power stakes. As Gerhard Berger proved, 2nd with renewed Honda power. While Senna took provisional pole, the McLaren duo being the only drivers inside the 1:50 bracket, the Brazilian also set a new qualifying lap record during what seemed a very busy session.
Well, it was a bit frenetic session because with the accident halfway through, it meant lots of people were held up in the pits and then everybody was going out at the same time. And strategically it was very important to be out there amongst the first cars.
But the sensation of Friday qualifying was 22-year-old German rising star Michael Schumacher. The former German Formula 3 champ and Mercedes-Benz junior team member was totally committed and yet confident as he flung the Jordan Ford around a track he'd never driven on before. 5 places ahead of teammate Andrea de Cesaris, the Jordan Grand Prix team were delighted not only by his first official showing, but also by his approach and communication skill, so vital in setting up a Formula 1 car. We spoke to him after practice.
You must be very happy with your results.
Yeah, sure, I'm really happy. But anyway, I have to say, with this car, you can do this qualifying time. You know, the car feels really good and it makes a lot of fun to drive. And also for the time, I'm really happy, yeah.
Which brought us to final qualifying at this historic track in the Belgian Ardennes. And whilst most were impressed with Schumacher's performance, none could forget that he had replaced poor Belgian Bertrand Gachot, who was languishing in a London jail, missing his home Grand Prix. The patriotic messages of support found sympathy from all quarters. But Schumacher showed he wasn't a one-hit wonder by initially climbing to a stunning 5th overall in the very competitive Jordan Ford. Ayrton Senna remained fastest from Friday in the McLaren. But then the diligent Alain Prost proved his Spa calculations were correct by stealing the pole from his new friend Senna. But this was to be one of Prost's shortest held pole positions of his career. Within 30 seconds, Ayrton Senna simply pulverized the Frenchman's time. His McLaren Honda, with its new, more powerful engine, was already out on the track, setting a super quick time, and as the red and white projectile hurtled across the line, Senna had shaved 1.5 seconds off his Friday time. Further demotion awaited Alain Prost as Nigel Mansell made his second qualifying run to take the front row placing from the Ferrari driver. Prost was disappointed to be bumped by Mansell. Gerhard Berger waited patiently to get a run as work continued on his engine, while Jean Alesi showed just what an exciting driver he is by actually setting a time quicker than Senna's at the split time at Stavelot. The Frenchman's Ferrari clearly on the limit, only to be thwarted by traffic congestion through the bus stop chicane. Gerhard Berger's patience was fading when his engine was finally fixed with just 15 minutes left. but the impatient Honda had clearly refused to respond to the doctors and blew up, leaving the Austrian to hike back to the pits and eventually run out of time with the spare car. After repeated frustrations during practice, Riccardo Patrese had waited until much further into the session than Williams' teammate Mansell to set his fastest lap. The Italian driver's reward was the front row and second place, which would bump Mansell down to fourth, after Alain Prost fought back to take third place in the Ferrari. But Patrese still had some chassis problems of his own.
I have a small problem with my back that is a bit stiff, I should say, and I'm quite comfortable inside the car, but when I have to stand up, really it's pulling a little bit.
Nigel Mansell was a little perplexed by the performance of his car during qualifying, particularly at straight-line speed, and he knew he had it all to do in the race.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, we've won from fourth on the grid before. This circuit's a little bit easier for overtaking, but I'd like to have stayed in second if I could, and I think I paid the penalty of going out too early in the session, but there's possibly a threat of a little bit of rain, and I think the track probably got a little bit grippier at the end.
Senna's 58th pole position of his career was already history to him, but the race setup was of paramount importance.
For sure, we tried to beat him. I think here there is more chance than the last Grand Prix in Hungary, for sure, but we have to see our potential against their potential. That is something that we have to check only in the race, we will see.
However, Patrese's second place was disallowed. FOCA President Bernie Eccleston told Frank Williams of the steward's decision due to a malfunctioning reverse gear, as Frank tried to cheer up his driver, who would now start way back in 17th, courtesy of Friday's times, which did count. So when we come back, we'll follow Patrese's fortunes as he tries to climb up the grid. That's coming up on Inside Track, here on Screen Sport.
Sunday morning, many of the drivers emerged from the briefing wearing T-shirts supporting Bertrand Gachot. Noble gesture of solidarity. But Gachot's replacement, Michael Schumacher, had to concentrate on the task in hand. So far, he'd been doing a pretty good job. He qualified 8th on the grid, less than 4 seconds slower than this man, Ayrton Senna. Senna had already won 4 times. Could he make it 5? Nigel Mansell needed a good result to stay in the championship race. And Alain Prost and Ferrari, no race wins so far this year, not since his first season 1980, but Prost gone a whole campaign without a win. Schumacher concentrating on his start. Ivan Capelli had special adhesive spray applied to his hands to prevent his gloves sliding and causing blisters. One man with a lot to do, Riccardo Patrese, relegated to 17th on the grid, requiring an immense effort to climb into the points. Alongside Patrese, Thierry Boutsen, aiming to please the home fans with a good result. So, the lineup on the grid, Ayrton Senna in pole position, alongside him on the front row, Alain Prost in the Ferrari looking to break his duck. Second row, Nigel Mansell in the Williams, alongside him Gerhard Berger in the other McLaren Honda. And then on row 3, Jean Alesi in the Ferrari and Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford. An improved performance from him in practice and the highest of the Pirelli runners. Green flag was waved at the back, 26 cars ready for 44 laps of this daunting Spa track. The slowest corner is the first corner, La Source, which is where they were heading for. Senna on the inside, made a good start, got the power down well, and looking for a way round the outside. Alain Prost tucked in behind them. Berger and Mansell, and a lock up there. Schumacher, enthusiastic as ever, as he had been all the way through practice. But down the hill, Senna first, second Prost, third was Mansell, and fourth Gerhard Berger. Now we're with Jean Alesi in the Ferrari. He's behind Schumacher, who suddenly stopped and pulled off at the top of Eau Rouge. And Alesi was past him, and Schumacher was out. He completed one corner of the 1991 Belgian Grand Prix. A great pity for him. Nelson Piquet up the inside and into 4th position in the Benetton Ford, ahead of Gerhard Berger. Smoke from tyres and tortured engines as the rest of the field followed through. That was Eric Bernard at the back.
but Senna was where he wanted to be in first place. Could Prost catch up? Could he break that Ferrari duck? And could Nigel Mansell catch up with the leaders and get back into the championship hunt? A very short race indeed for 22-year-old Michael Schumacher in the Jordan. He was on his radio to the pits, where we caught up with team boss Eddie Jordan.
Eddie, Michael had a fantastic start, but then he stopped. What happened?
He just radioed in. I think we have a problem with something to do with the engine, and I think it's in the clutch department. I'm not exactly sure. It's too early to say until he comes back.
Ayrton Senna leading in the Belgian Grand Prix. In second place, still Alain Prost just. But Nigel Mansell was closing, and up the hill, he got through into second place. That's where he wanted to be, to get a chance at getting past Ayrton Senna. Nelson Piquet 4th, 5th Gerhard Berger, 6th Alesi, then Modena, then De Cesaris, Moreno and Capelli. But Capelli's teammate, Gugelmin, retired very early with engine problems in the Leighton House, Ilmore. Senna coming up to the bus stop, the famous chicane. Second Mansell and trying to close in. Third, Alain Prost. Could he stay with the pack? Could he stay with the two leading cars in Formula One, the McLaren and the Williams? V12 and V10 engines respectively. There was the V12 Ferrari engine car of Prost round La Source, and then this happened. Barbecue time. A big fry-up at the back of the Ferrari, and Alain Prost was out very early. Lap 2, in fact. Smoke billowed from the back as the fire marshals came to attend to Prost Ferrari, but they forgot to even put on the handbrake. And the car, as you'll see in a second, rolled there into the barrier. So Prost fortunately got out of that haze of smoke and away back to the pits to explain what happened. And you can see the flames from the back of the car there as the engine blew up in spectacular fashion. Prost now explained to his engineers that it had been a major blow-up. Perhaps we've taken it too far this time, chaps, on the engine. Riccardo Patrese on the track had started from 17th. He was in 10th position and gobbled up Ivan Capelli to take 9th place. Ahead of him, Moreno. Meantime, back in the pits was Michael Schumacher.
Michael, there wasn't a very long race, but you had an excellent start. Take us from the start to when you had to go out.
You said the start was quite perfect. I win 2 places, I think, and just after the hairpin, I got a problem with the clutch. I have no more traction, and I think something is broken in the clutch or in the gearbox. I don't know.
De Cesaris in 6th place, but 7th place was taken by Riccardo Patrese from Stefano Modena, so he continued his climb up the field in the Williams Renault. But everybody knew they would have to change tyres at Spa, Pirelli and Goodyear both, as Nigel Mansell climbed all over the back of Ayrton Senna, serving his intentions to him that he wanted to get past and into first place. He didn't have to wait too long, because Ayrton Senna was heading to the pits, the first of the major runners to stop for fresh tyres. The 2-horse race now became a race of tactics, as the well-drilled McLaren mechanics went to work, wiping Senna's visor, but they had a problem with the right rear, and that took 9.87 seconds. Not quick enough by McLaren's very, very high standards, and Senna went out to rejoin the track just ahead of Andrea De Cesaris in 5th position. So Senna had a little bit to do. He wasn't calculating on a longer stop like that, and behind De Cesaris, Riccardo Patrese. And De Cesaris was climbing all over the back of the McLaren. Senna on cold tyres, taking it a little bit easy, but De Cesaris a little bit frustrated. This big red and white McLaren Honda was in his way, but Senna blocked him suitably all the way through Redion and up through Les Combes. This classic Spa track, the Honda power, of course, being a key to Senna's success. And Nigel Mansell, very shortly afterwards, came in for his pit stop. Williams Renault boys, very, very slick indeed, managed to change all 4 of Nigel Mansell's tyres in 7.4 seconds and rejoin in 3rd place. So that pit stop, a tactical pit stop by Williams, put him into 3rd place. And you see Mansell here rejoining just after Gerhard Berger and just ahead of Jean Alesi's Ferrari, which was planning to go the whole way on one set of tyres. However, Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford up ahead with Pirelli tyres, leading for the first time since Canada in 1991. But Mansell, an epic drive by him, a classic drive because he was on cold tyres as Senna had been the lap before after his pit stop. But Mansell was on a charge, determined to get up ahead and catch up with Nelson Piquet and retake the lead as he followed closely behind Gerhard Berger, had him in his sights, and he knew he had to get past the McLaren Honda before it kept ahead of him. So Mansell, with the Austrian Berger in his sights, closed in a Mansell classic move, stalking his prey, getting underneath the rear wing of the McLaren, and ducked down the inside like that to take second place in Belgium, and head after Nelson Piquet, who then came into the pits for his stop for fresh rubber, fresh Pirelli rubber, having led the race. 3 times world champion Nelson Piquet, far more competitive than of late. And a good stop from the team as Gerhard Berger then made his pit stop. And that was Stefano Modena coming in the Tyrrell Honda, but McLaren team were frustrated yet again. This time it was the left front that was stuck, and it was 17 seconds before Berger rejoined the race. Mansell, in the meantime, was in the lead in Spa. That's where he needed to be. He wanted those 10 points at the front, and Gerhard Berger had been stuck for 17 seconds, put on too much power, and spun at the exit of the pit lane, nearly collecting Modena as he exited. There was the spin, too much power, cold tyres for the McLaren. Berger's frustration was understandable. Then Riccardo Patrese managed to wrest 5th place from Andrea De Cesaris after quite a long tussle between the two Italians. Old teammates, of course, but Riccardo on his way. Nigel Mansell was slowing, a lazy closing in 2nd place, and Senna in 3rd, closing in on the pair of them. Lazy got past. Mansell was obviously in mechanical trouble, and Senna about to get past Mansell as well. Mansell seeing his points disappearing out of the window as the car, the Williams Renault of Mansell, misfired really badly. A lazy first in the Ferrari, 2nd Senna. There was nothing left for the Englishman to do but just simply roll down the hill to retirement. Desperation for the team because Mansell had it in the bag, and total frustration for Mansell himself as seemingly another electrical problem robbed the championship-threatening team of points, and Mansell needed them badly here at Spa. As Nigel explained, the race tactics had worked well and the team had been on course for points.
Everything was going really good to plan in the race. The team did a fantastic pit stop, which put us in the lead. Then basically I was managing the car. We're not quite sure what happened. All we do know is the fact that it's an electrical problem. It's an electrical problem which basically stopped the car, didn't make the gearbox work, but also it cut the engine. I reset the engine as I was explaining with the ignition. I reset it, restarted it and everything, and then it just packed up again. You know, I hate to say something similar to Canada, but it's obviously an electrical problem. I can't say any more. As for the championship guys, I can't say anything. Got to see who wins the race. If Ayrton wins the race here, you know the answer. Thank you, everybody. Yes, I am disappointed.
Meanwhile, Mansell's teammate Riccardo Patrese was still in the Belgian Grand Prix and fighting hard, taking 3rd place from Nelson Piquet's Benetton Ford and immediately losing it as he went over the inside of the corner, over the rough stuff, losing 2 places. Jean Alesi retired from the lead in the Ferrari that he was going to go all the way without pit stops in. More engine problems for Ferrari and more disappointment for the Italian fans. Andrea De Cesaris stalking Nelson Piquet and taking 2nd place from him. The Jordan Ford up into a remarkable 2nd place. Piquet demoted to 3rd. Ayrton Senna still in the lead. Stefano Modena lost 6th place like this. More engine problems, but this time for the Honda, as Gerhard Berger tried to make up for that 17-second pit stop and went past Andrea De Cesaris, who was retiring from 2nd place in the Jordan Ford after a brilliant showing One wonders what Michael Schumacher could have done in the other car had he continued in this race. Roberto Moreno came up upon Riccardo Patrese and took fourth place easily. Patrese's Williams Renault had gearbox problems as Ayrton Senna cruised away to yet another win in the McLaren Honda. But behind him this time, Gerhard Berger, after all his dramas in practice and during the race, took second place. A 1-2 for McLaren Honda. Great for Senna, but Mansell a mountain to climb.
So, Ayrton Senna enjoying the 32nd win of his Formula One career and his 5th here at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. Confirmation of the final results. Senna first, Gerhard Berger second, the two McLarens, followed by the two Benettons of Piquet and Moreno. Riccardo Patrese 5th, Mark Blundell picked up Brabham's first points of the season. But for Senna, the win was far from easy.
Well, it was a real fantastic race for me. Fantastic result. I never expect to win. As the race developed, the Williams with Mansell was a lot quicker than me, but he couldn't overtake me. After my pit stop I had a problem with one of the tires, and I lost a lot of time in the pit stop, and everything was going bad for me from there on. And then Mansell dropped out. I had a lazy to deal, and I knew he didn't change tires, so I decided to wait for late stage in the race when he would have his tires worn out. But I was just near to him, just waiting for a later stage. Suddenly, out of the hairpin, I think from third to fourth, I got second, or from fourth to fifth, I got second gear. Completely, the gear selection went completely crazy. Similar thing as Brazil early in the year. And I thought, okay, now forget it. I was stuck in a very short gear. I went all the way down, all up the hill in that stuck gear. And suddenly I managed to get a sixth gear suddenly. So then I went again, and that's when Piquet got near to me in one lap. And I had fifth, fourth, and third. And I tried once, I got second, but it was very funny, and I was worried to get stuck again. So from then on, I was only from third up. And was only a real problem at the hairpin. Everywhere else was okay. But at the hairpin, it was very difficult to stop the car and to accelerate out of there. So I was very fortunate because the gear selection was certainly a big problem, and I was just fortunate to be able to have those top four gears and not be stuck in one gear or whatever. It was really a fortunate race for me.
Here's a look at how that victory affected the driver standings. Senna now with a 22-point lead over Nigel Mansell. Patrese all but out of it, although the defending world champion wasn't ruling anything out yet.
10 points. Very important today, particularly with Mansell and Patrese almost not scoring. So this is a major step forward in the championship, but still the Williams is a faster car, and under normal circumstances they are ahead of us. So we went through one more race, we got a fantastic result, and we have a little more time until the next one to go forward again in our car combination. We need further improvements in the aerodynamics. We have some things coming up for Monza, and we need a more stable engine. Our engine goes up and down, lose power, comes back, and we need to improve the whole package to compete in equal terms with the Williams. But in the meantime, I have 22 points lead with 5 races remaining. Who knows? We will keep trying, and we'll wait and see.
In the race for the Constructors' title, McLaren Honda picked up maximum points in Belgium, elevating them to a 16-point margin over Williams Renault. But for Gerhard Berger, engine problems and a poor pit stop almost cost him his second-place finish.
Yeah, the left front wheel was sticking, and they couldn't get it changed quick, so it took a long time in the pits. And then had a spin just going out of the pits, so I lost a lot of time. But the main problem was my engine was really very bad. Beginning of the race, I mean, was just a joke. It was not working at all. And I saw already after the warm-up this morning that the engine was not perfect, but this afternoon was really bad.
And Nelson Piquet picked up his first points since his win in Canada back in June.
Well, it's good place, but it was not a real third place. It's a lot of car drop, stop in the circuit to finish third. Like this, it's you cannot even wait for everybody to stop every time to finish third.
Jean Alesi was extremely disappointed in his Ferrari's lack of reliability. Like Alain Prost, Alesi had his engine blow, and that had the engineers and mechanics looking for solutions until well after the race was over. The list of retirements was quite lengthy. Such is the nature of the Spa circuit. Gugelmin, Prost, Capelli and Bernard all going out with engine trouble before the halfway point of the race. And as we'd heard previously, Schumacher with clutch problems and Mansell retiring with electronic troubles. Further down the list, we can see that engine failure really took its toll. But one driver not on the list of retirements because he'd completed sufficient laps to be classified was Andrea de Cesaris, who finished 13th. The Jordan Ford was up to second place before being forced to retire only 2 laps before the end of the race.
What was the problem that caused you to stop? The water went very high and the engine blew, basically, because of the water. I don't know what is exactly happening.
Looking forward to Monza, that's your type of circuit?
Well, Monza is, for sure, it's my home country Grand Prix, but and I think it should be good in Monza, but today was really good, you know, and to be as good as today, I think it's very difficult.
Monza, steeped in tradition, sure to provide a very competitive race in 1991, a power circuit, reliability the key. Senna had it in Belgium, Mansell didn't. Will it change in Italy? Join us then.